Humble request to our distinguished speaker of the day, Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kanji, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Tankeshwar Kumarji, and Registrar Professor Sunil Kumar to please grace the occasion with their presence on stage. Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of Central University of Haryana Fraternity and Internal Complaint Committee, I, Renu Yadav, Convener Women Empowerment Cell, feel immense pleasure to welcome Lordship Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kanji, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Vice Chancellor Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, Dr. Pankaj, Additional District and Sessions Judge Faridabad, former Director, Center for Research and Planning, Supreme Court of India, Registrar Professor Sunil Kumar, ICC Chairperson Professor Kalpana Chauhan, Event Coordinator Dr. Pradeep, Dean, Heads and Faculty Friends. Thank you so much for being here for today's distinguished lecture and for continuing to demonstrate your commitment towards gender sensitization. Proceeding further, I request the Honorable Mr. Justice Surya Kanji, Honorable Judge, Supreme Court of India, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, Dr. Pankaj, ADJ, Faridabad, Registrar, Professor Sunil Kumarji, Professor Sunita Srivastavji, and ICC Chairperson, Professor Kalpana Chauhan for lamp lighting. Thank you so much, everyone. Now, I request everyone to please rise for University Kulgate. And IT section is requested to play the Kulgate.
शिक्षा दीक्षा की परंपरा से राष्ट्र का हुआ सदा शिक्षण से सजा हुआ गौरव अभियान ज्ञान विज्ञान की शक्ति से सीखा है में समाहित संस्कारों की शक्ति को जब लिया है हम सब अपने राज्य की रक्षा कला योग विज्ञान विधि का विश्वविद्यालय देता ज्ञान तन मन और जीवन चिता का देता है यह शुभ वरदान लेकर जिस उन्हीं मेहनत से माटी को सोना कर दे जहां किसान शिक्षा
Thank you so much, everyone. You can occupy your seats. We are fortunate that we are in the lap of the nature in a serene campus of approximate 500 acres. After inception in 2009, our university achieved many milestones and become the torchbearer in academics, research, innovation, and best practices, and stand tall in AW Higher Education ranking 2022-23 by earning third rank in Haryana and 39th rank in India as a multidisciplinary government university in India. So for knitting the beads of the season, I would like to invite Registrar of the University, Professor Sunil Kumar.
Respected Chief Guest of the Day, Honorable Mr. Justice Socio-Economic ji, Just Supreme Court of India, Honorable Vice Chancellor Sir, Deans, Heads, Teachers, non-teaching staff, distinguished guests, and participants, students and media persons. I consider it an honor and a great privilege to welcome you all on this auspicious occasion of Vishaka at 25 Walk the Talk. Today, we are delighted to have the gracious presence of Shri Suryakant Ji, Honorable Justice, Supreme Court of India, as our distinguished chief guest on this memorable occasion. On behalf of the CUH fraternity, I welcome you, sir. With the greatest reverence and highest admiration on your first visit to this university. Ever since you have assumed this august constitutional position, your positivity has been a constant source of inspiration for all of us. Being a man of unparalleled experience in judiciary, we shall look forward to hear from you and receiving your blessing on this momentous occasion. Before I begin the report of the university, let me say that the quality teaching and research matters not only for students' learning outcomes, but also for the growth and development of a nation. Thus, a sharp focus on teaching, research, and innovation is vital for a developing country like India, which aspires to become a developed country in the next 2 decades. It won't be an exaggeration to say that it is the education sector alone, especially research and innovation, that can propel a country from middle income status to high income status. Thus, academic initiatives have always been a top priority of the university. The university offers 9 undergraduate programs, 35 master programs, 25 research programs under 33 departments and 8 schools of the studies. I am happy to share that the university cherishes a truly national character with 54% students from states other than Haryana. Secondly, out of more than 3,203 students, more than 37% are female students. Therefore, the university upholds the values of gender equality, diversity, openness, and inclusion. It is important to mention that the university offers several value-added courses imparting transferable and life skills. At present, 790 students have been enrolled in such courses. The university also provides the opportunity to students to do internship and undertake research projects. More than 960 students have been benefited from such programs. At present, a total of 154 students have been enrolled in the university as postdoctoral fellows. Overall, our university always keeps the welfare and well-being of our students a top priority and thus encourages faculty members to offer one-to-one counseling to the students. We use the latest technologies to enrich the teaching learning environment of the university. There are 5 virtual classrooms for the development of MOOCs, video recording, and live streaming of the lectures. Online and digital resources are also provided to students through the university website and library. I am happy to share that we have developed a comprehensive strategic plan to implement new education policy 2020. Our academic programs are aligned with NEP 2020, LOCF, CBCS, and blending learning. The NEP cell of the university is taking initiatives to implement the NEP in a phased manner in order to enable students to earn credits from various higher education institutions across the country. Our university has registered itself on the Academic Bank of Credit platform of the Government of India. The faculty members have published more than 350 research papers and 42 books with national and international publishers in the year 2021. I am pleased to share that the academic departments of our university have established several international academic collaborations. For instance, the Department of Microbiology has research collaborations with universities in Finland and South Africa. The Department of Biotechnology has research collaboration with university in Portugal and Belgium, and the Department of Political Science has research collaboration with university in Germany and United Kingdom. These international engagements give a clear indication that the university is on its way to being positioned squarely in the international realm of knowledge, production, research, and innovation. To improve and strengthen the academia industry linkages, the university has signed and operationalized MOUs with CSIR, Central Electronics Engineering Research Institute, Pilani, Liberty Shoes Limited, Karnal, Technology Application Service, New Delhi, National Cooperative Unions of India, New Delhi, Center for Innovation and Applied Bioprocessing, Mohali, National Entrepreneurship Network, Bangalore, and many more. Under the banner of CII, Shodh Yatras are organized every year, and the students are encouraged to innovate. So far, the students innovator under CII, Center for Innovation and Incubation, have developed several innovations such as the hand-operated electricity generator, signboard using LEDs, folding staircase, and air car. One of our students' innovation, which shows how we can generate electric power through speed breakers, got first prize in the International Electrical Vehicle Expo 2016, Pragati Maidan, New Delhi. And this all has been possible under the leadership and guidance of Professor Sunita Srivastava who is heading the CII, that is Center for Innovation and Incubation. The university administration is aware of the fact that world-class research requires cutting-edge infrastructure. Thus, the constant upgradation of the physical facilities such as hostel, staff quarters, health center, and library remain our top priority. The campus is having an uninterrupted power supply backed up 4 centralized UPS and 12 generators with 180 kVA to 500 kVA. The university has 4 auditoriums with state-of-art facilities to carry out curricular and extracurricular activities. The university has also installed solar energy generation system and has put in place a canal water connection for sustainable water consumption in the campus. In addition, we have a horticulture park and herbal garden with various species of herbal plants. I once again take this opportunity to welcome you all on this great auspicious occasion in the benign presence of Honorable Justice, Supreme Court of India, and Dr. Pankaj Ji, Additional District and Session Judge, Faridabad. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir, for your elaborative description of university. It's my proud privilege to invite now our head of family, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, who envisioned the university to be recognized as a multidisciplinary university, blend of science and state of art. For more than anything, he believes in providing our students with an environment that nurtures, gives them creative freedom and security, a thirst for knowledge, and a lesson for a lifetime. So with these words, sir, I invite you for the welcome address.
Respected Chief Guest of the Day, Honorable Shri Justice Suryakant, Supreme Court of India, Dr. Pankaj, Additional District and Sessional Judge, Faridabad. And you know, this program is being organized by ICC and Women's Cell. And the topic today is Vishaka at the rate 25. Everybody may be aware of the Vishaka guidelines, which came in 1997, and it is 25th year today, 22. And this is what we thought that our internal complaint committee, which you know, everybody, every student should know, is there as a part of, you know, it was Supreme Court direction that every institute should have a ICC, which was finally, you know, UGC instructed us. Internal complaint committee is for everyone, for the women, men, students, staff, everyone. There you have, if you have sexual harassment case, you can put in a complaint. And there is a women's cell we have. Women's cell is basically looking for the basically sensitization for the gender equality, and all we know we have these committees and the women's cell especially, you have organized various programs. And today we are very lucky and we feel proud when we have Honorable Justice Suryakant of Supreme Court of India is with us on the topic Vishaka guidelines. You know, this, I just want to say that when you are at some position or when you are occupying uh, a role where you have to perform the role, then there may not be something which is not available to you. But then what you do, you have to give some guidelines, right? So that is why we see that sometimes you have to really act so that the situation improves. So that way we see that our student, as madam was saying, that we are to see that our students take participate in various activities. And we are also just talking that, you know, it is not just the classroom, it is what you learn more, that is what is out of the classroom. So you should create an atmosphere here where our students participate in various activities and can have, you know, such a atmosphere where they can be motivated. You know, we have today a person here where you can, all of us can be motivated by his, you know, the achievements he has. So that is one of the aim, that you should all be, you know, you should learn not only just what you learn in the classroom, you should go beyond the classroom. And that is, I see, I have been always been practicing. And I always see that whenever, you know, you do try to do something, you know, you will come across some problem, right? As you know, the Vivekananda said that if you don't come across any problem, if you don't come across any problem, you can be sure that you are traveling on a wrong path. Right? It is very important. If you are trying to do something new, you will come across the problems, right? So it is all of us, we have to face the problem, and that is where we say that we face the problem, and out of the problems we have the challenges, and we have to convert those challenges into the opportunities. So something new, which I say come out is only once you face the problem. And that is what we have seen, that especially in this case, when the Supreme Court of India gave us these guidelines, right? So that is, you know, some problem was there, and that problem may not have some solution, but you know, something new has come up, that is was the guideline. But later on, you know, the legislation came. So I will be listening all of these things from our chief guest, and it will be, you know, a great learning for all of us, that how really you have to come when you come across a problem, how to really solve them, right? Really solve them. And you know, and we as at present, you know, in the present education system, if I talk about is, I always say that it is not just to see that you learn something and you gain the knowledge. No, it is not that. It is, you have to really see that you are able to become problem solver. And nowadays, not only solve the problem solver, you have to really see that how to resolve the conflicts also. That is, conflicts is a bigger thing than the problems, individual problem. So that is where I think that we have to really look for. And I hope that by organizing such a lecture by ICC and Women's Cell, and really will be benefiting. And I am really thankful to the organizers of means those who are within this committee for the ICC and Women's Cell, and all my deans directors, HODs, TIC, and staff members, teaching and non-teaching. And you know, they have worked very hard for organizing these this program because this is an event where we have, our my Lord has inaugurated the women hostel today with the 105 rooms with 315 capacity. Some of you may be already staying in that hostel. So it is a very really proud moment for all of us to have with the hostel being inaugurated by Shri Justice Suryakant's Judge Supreme Court of India. It is a great honor for all of us. And with these words, I once again welcome you, sir, and thank all of you to be here. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Thank you so much, sir, for always being a source of inspiration for every event. We are profoundly delighted that today we have a persona like Dr. Pankaj, Additional District and Sessions Judge, Faridabad, the former Director, Center for Research and Planning, Supreme Court of India, among us, for his deliberation on such a relevant and contemporary aspect, gender justice and jurisprudence of Supreme Court of India. He is a blend of bright experience of practice at bar of Punjab and Haryana High Court, Chandigarh, by dealing with huge number of cases with excellent academic career, including teaching experience at Punjab University and Army Institute of Law, with further experience of serving at bench at judicial officer, being a member of Haryana Judicial Services at a very young age of 36 plus. As a judicial officer, he brings glories by expeditious disposal of 25 sessions trials in January 2019 and 36 session trials in July 2019, while posted as a additional district and sessions judge, Hisar. This is the highest ever rate of disposal of sessions trials in a month in India till date. So, sir, we are very eager to listen from you. So I request you to please come on the dais.
I am beholden to Honorable Justice Suryakant ji, Judge Supreme Court of India, Shri Tankeshwar Prasad, Vice Chancellor of the University, Professor Sunita Srivastav, Professor Sunil Kumar, Registrar, Head of the Internal Complaint Committee, and all faculty members, deans, heads, administrative officers, organizers, and students. My today's topic is gender justice and jurisprudence of Supreme Court. Jurisprudence is the subject which always gives us opportunity to research. It is the only subject which is never complete. Different theories, different thinkers, different philosophers, different jurists always provide different platform for research in law. And constitutional expectations, it may be the framers' expectations, it is also the expectations of the public from the constitutional authorities, it is the expectation of the institutions from the institutions. These expectations mandates to develop our own jurisprudence so as to fill the lacunas or gap between legislation and judicial system for progress of society, to develop society, and to protect society from time to time. Apex Court has always taken the responsibility of safeguarding any particularly vulnerable class of the society from inequality or oppression. From time to time, Supreme Court has developed its own jurisprudence. We can say Indian jurisprudence. Constitutional provisions are only guidelines, and that guidelines are for the purpose of fulfilling that expectations which society has from this government, we can say, from these institutions, including educational institution also. Now coming to the topic, women in our country somehow, somewhere have always subjected to various oppressions. And there are numerous situations where fundamental rights such as equal treatment, equal opportunities are being denied. And because of this, talent of the particular section of the society by which they can contribute in different institutions remains ineffective. There is harassment. There are so many difficulties for female to come and give contribution of their talent. But Honorable Supreme Court, after feeling the situation, gave different judgments from time to time. Vishaka is one of the celebrated judgment. And this is celebrated judgment because it is not the copy of the right of any other country. It was the demand of our society, which Supreme Court has provided. And only after this decision, this has been converted into legislative development by the Parliament. Not more going only on this Vishaka case, from time to time, to take the contribution of the female and to provide rights and protection, Supreme Court has developed its own jurisprudence. In Vishaka case also, in Vinita Sharma case, where the right has been given by birth to the female in the property. And that cannot be taken away even if it was prior to the case also. There was also recently a challenge in armed forces, there was no contribution. The Secretary Ministry of Defense case was decided and permanent commission has been given to the female and they can be promoted even to the extent of the highest in the forces. Therefore, Supreme Court has developed its jurisprudence to protect the particular section of the society, to uplift and to seek their contribution, to get their talent utilized. मैं जस्टिस सूर्यकांत जी के साथ मैंने काम भी किया है और from last 15-20 years, when I was advocate, I started practice in 2004. I think in 2006, my one case was fixed. In that case, there was NDPS case and one landlord has falsely implicated his servant, female servant, and all quantity has been imposed upon her. But that was a big quantity. I was a young lawyer. फीस कम होती थी तो उनको इस पे ट्राई कर लो, बेल तो होनी नहीं. I took that case, filed that case, and fortunately that was fixed before the bench of Honorable Justice Sureka. On that day, I saw the sensitivity. I am certain I was not of such caliber, but that has been sensitively felt by the Lordship, and that has been mentioned in the case that female from depressed section has been implicated in this case. However, the landlord land from belongs to that person has not been involved even in this case, and bail was granted. The sensitivity of lordship and providing such type of gender justice. Now, I am further sure and confident that under the able leadership of Honorable Justice Suryakant of Supreme Court, he would further uphold the expectation of the people of this nation as enshrined in the Constitution, as discussed in the constitutional debates. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your reflections. Now, I would like to invite Dr. Pradeep, Event Coordinator, for setting the tone of the event.
Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, Judge Supreme Court of India, Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, our worthy Vice Chancellor, Professor Sunita Srivastav, Dr. Pankaj, learned Additional District and Session Judge, Professor Sunil Kumar, Registrar, all my respected deans, HODs, my senior colleagues, faculty members, and equally important dear students, a very good afternoon to one and all over here. Well, without taking any peripheral route, let me straightway come to the agenda which has been assigned to me, that is to set the tone for today's program. Well, long back down in the line in 1997, something unprecedented happened in the Supreme Court of India when the then Chief Justice, Mr. Justice J.S. Verma, took a very bold and firm stand so as to protect the interest of women's at workplace, their rights at their workplace. Actually, it was a judge-made law, and that lasts for 16 years until Government of India or Parliament came with this particular act relating to sexual harassment of women at workplace in 2013. So, in this particular background, the initiative was actually, it remains a brainchild of our worthy Vice Chancellor, who could ignite in our ICC and Women Empowerment Cell so as to have something since next month, Vishaka is completing 25 years. So we could, just following the direction made by our worthy Vice Chancellor, we could chalk out and frame this kind of event which is being inaugurated, and this particular lecture is being delivered, distinguished lecture by your lordship. Given this contextual background, one thing is clear, that Justice J.S. Verma was a great lawyer, great judge of that time. And when I say great judge, that made me remind of my mentor, Professor Moolchand Sharma. He made me aware about the difference between a good judge and a great judge. He said that if legal knowledge and judicial acumen and the crafting skill make a person good judge, then it's humility, it's politeness, it's, modesty, which altogether make such judge a great judge. And only, please mark, Only few falls in that category. Now let me cite three different judgment, very briefly, so as to make the difference in front of you guys. In 2021, a case came before the Supreme Court of India, wherein fixing of national income of housemakers received a great attraction from the civil society. And when I say housemaker in Indian context, you must be aware, approximately more than 95% of housemakers always remain women in India. Though it's a social construction, I would say that it has been said that it's their cup of tea. I criticize it. It required to be deconstructed, I would rather say. But no denial in saying that in spite of having so-called social construction, our mothers, our sisters, our wives, they have been doing justice with this noble task, with a level-based commitment and dedication. And when I say dedication, dedication to the extent of, they are giving food to the family, to the child, even at the cost of sacrificing their own food. Dedication to the extent that many a time they do not have food to serve, even though they know how to handle a situation, they know what to do in a right manner, in a constructive manner. I would say, एक माँ उबालती रही पत्थर तमाम रात और बच्चे फरेब खाकर भूखे पेट चटाई पर सो गए. She know how to tackle even that scarcity like situation. And it was for the first time in 2021, a case came in the Supreme Court. Case was Kirti versus Oriental Insurance Limited Company, wherein none other than Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant made again a bold step, bold decision, and said that this contribution which remained disguised till date will be acknowledged and recognized. Now it is recognized right by the Supreme Court. Coming to the second case, long back, when a poor maternal uncle of 4 fatherless minor girl child knocked the door of the High Court of Punjab and Haryana with a simple revision petition, I believe, Lordship, with a very simple revision petition, wherein, since the interest of those 4 girl childs were there, you know what happened? Unprecedentedly, never seen before, an out of box approach was taken by Honorable High Court of Punjab and Haryana. What was the case? Who decided the case? None other than Mr. Justice Suryakant ji, when he remained there as a judge of High Court of Punjab and Haryana. And a new theory got developed. Theory was invisible justice for invisible litigants. Never seen before. And that was much, even that is being deliberated throughout the world. Being a student of jurisprudence, I can share. Invisible justice. And that was propounded by none other than your lordship in that particular case. Your lordship, may I kindly seek this liberty and pray to your lordship for kindly sharing your words of wisdom, that what make your lordship to take this kind of bold decision in this judgment, because that was never seen before, out of box approach taken by the Indian judiciary by your lordship. Now coming to the third judgment in a very brief manner. Judgment was of Ravi versus State of Maharashtra, when Supreme Court upheld the decision of conviction of an accused of rape and murder of a poor innocent 2.5-year-old child. Author again remains your lordship in that particular judgment and holding that accused person liable for that particular heinous crime, I would say. Your lordship said, I quote, a civil society has a fundamental and human right to live free from any kind of psycho fear, from threat, danger, insecurity at the hands of antisocial elements of the society. I unquote. Having imbibed with humility, modesty, your lordship also happens to be full of politeness, as has been shared by Justice Krishna Murari, the then Chief Justice of Punjab and Haryana High Court. Actually, the instance was of farewell party that was organized by Punjab and Haryana High Court in the honor of Mr. Justice Suryakant on being elevated as Chief Justice of High Court of Himachal Pradesh. And the house was full of entire legal fraternity. And you know, while pushing the car by hands, in which lordship was made to sit in that situation, Justice Krishna Murari became so emotional, and said, I quote, from today, I will feel as if I am the captain of Indian team playing cricket match without Dravid. He said that like Rahul Dravid all the time as it happened in cricket, Justice Suryakant always stood like a stone wall between him and all kind of problem he had been suffering. So the golden triangle of humility, modesty, and the politeness, as was given by Professor Mulchand Sharma, can be apparently seen in the person of your lordship, which altogether make him a great judge, I would say. Your lordship, I'm well aware of the time constraint, and as your time happens to be an asset for the country, for nation building, I'm well aware of the fact. But I also lack word over here that in what manner. Actually, I can't do justice with the task in showing my gratefulness from the university to your lordship. I failed in that duty, and I admit. Last but not least, by concluding, I confess, your lordship, I confess and share that just like your Sudama, hailing from a place here in this particular university, with little bit disadvantage on locational front. But one thing is sure, that we are trying our level best so as to travel the footprint which has been laid down, shown by your lordship. And I just take a few seconds by summing up that we are just trying to walk over talk, as has already been shown. We have already been shown the way by your lordship, when your lordship said that when a person comes from a very humble background, the only foundation where he or she can survive is the performance. And we are just trying to do our level best so as to perform a little bit by just traveling to the footprint which has been shown to us by your lordship. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pradeep, for setting the tone of the event. Now, I'm highly honored and feel privileged to have been given the opportunity to introduce Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, Judge, Supreme Court of India. Sir, your life is a portrayal of humility, perseverance, and faith in own potential. Your voice in judiciary enthuse students and faculty to set aside that deep-seated negative belief that only sons and daughters of well-off families having foreign education can get the success. Sir, you born in such a humble family in Hisar, Haryana, studied from universities of Haryana and achieved the epitome of success. Your journey from a practitioner of law from District Court Hisar to distinction of being appointed as the youngest advocate general of Haryana in 2000 and elevation as a permanent judge to the Punjab and Haryana High Court in 2004, nominated member of the governing body of National Legal Service Authority for 2 consecutive terms, assuming charge of the office of Chief Justice of High Court of Himachal Pradesh in 2018, and elevation as a judge of Supreme Court of India on 24th May 2019, make everyone believe that if small but important step-by-step process is followed diligently and persistently, it can make a sea of difference in life. This transformation in turn will ignite an individual's natural genius. Sir, with these few words, I humbly request you to please deliver your distinguished lecture.
Please take your seat. Please, please, please. A very good afternoon to all of you. Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, for the Vice Chancellor, Central University, Haryana. Professor Sunil Kumar, Registrar on the dais. Professor Sunita Srivastava ji. Professor Dinesh, Dean Academics. Professor Neelam Sangwan, Dean Research. Professor Anand Sharma, DSW. Professor Pramod Proctor. Professor Kalpana, Chairperson ICC, who I think is the real organizer and for the 2 days event. Thank you very much, Dr. Pradeep, coordinator. You have said so many things about me which I might not be deserving. All the learned deans, heads, faculty members, and officers of the university, Professor Rajesh Meg, Mrs. Malik from the Law Department, a dear, very close to my heart and a vibrant judicial officer, Dr. Pankaj, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen. The subject matter of today's Walk the Talk, Vishaka completing 25 years of journey, is a very sensitive and very introspective subject which requires such like deliberations and serious deliberations at different ends. Today's day for me and for all of you is a special day for multiple reasons. As we saw in the corridor of the newly inaugurated girls' hostel, it's the eve of the World Environment Day, which we celebrate by planting trees in the hope of a better and greener future. And of course, we are celebrating 25 years of the landmark judgment of the Supreme Court of India in Vishaka versus State of Rajasthan. This case was indeed instrumental in transforming the workplace environment for the women of our country. I hope and trust that addition of the girls' hostel, which we have inaugurated today, will also be an added strength to the safe working environment, academic environment for the young girls, students here. We are celebrating the commemoration of 75 years of journey as an independent nation. We must also remind ourselves the promises that we made to ourselves to the beginning to become a developing nation by cultivating the ideas of democracy and the rule of law. However, and we must acknowledge, many a times we find that we are not fully succeeded in achieving our constitutional commitments to provide equal opportunities irrespective of class, caste, and gender. Specifically, the lack of a safe environment for women to come forward and be a part of the workplace. Therefore, Vishaka at 25, Walk the Talk, became so relevant. Dr. Pankaj pointed out, and I am repeating it, that injustice or a discriminatory approach at the societal front against the women is not a new phenomenon. How do you react what happened at the time of Mahabharata, when in a full sabha, a great woman like Draupadi was insulted? And in the presence of those whom the then society and even today we revere, we pray, and we accept them at a very high pedestal. And such like instances have been time and again repeated in the history. The students of history, some of the posters exhibited today tell those stories. When we come back to Vishaka, today's theme where I'm supposed to share my views with you, Dr. Pradeep has very eloquently pointed out that how Justice J.S. Verma, the then Chief Justice of India, evolved a new jurisprudence, identified the vacuum and lacuna in the legislative field, and attempted to fill up those blank parts through judicial verdict. Let's remember that Supreme Court had two options or choices before it: either to hold its hand and say that we are not competent to resolve these issues as the matter falls within the domain of the legislature, or that it's a social issue. And the second option was to step up and fulfill the expectations of the people as envisaged in the preamble of the Constitution. And why a judgment is being remembered, why we have great hopes, how it has brought a landmark change in the society, is only because the Supreme Court opted for the second choice, and it went ahead that notwithstanding the lack of legislative policy, lack of any social commitment, this ailment must be undone through a judicial command. And this is how the verdict came. I may just very briefly point out the facts because the young people sitting here might not be aware that how Vishaka ultimately culminated into a judgment. Bhavani Devi was a brave social worker, a member of NGO in Rajasthan. She came to know that a 1-year-old girl child was sought to be married with a major young person, 1-year-old girl child. She, along with members of the NGO, protested and raised their voice against this child marriage. The gentleman, Ramkaran Gujar, who was getting married, became so furiated that he, along with his associates, attacked Bhavuri Devi and Harassment when they were working in the field. They were mercilessly beaten, and Bhavuri Devi was gang raped by Ramkaran and his associates. Unfortunately, the lack of the accused were acquitted. Eventually, the matter went up to the Supreme Court, where the Supreme Court not only convicted the accused persons, but also with a view to prevent the menace of sexual harassment to the women folk, laid down a host of guidelines which are known as Vishaka guidelines. This is a fact that the Supreme Court sought to fill in the legislative lacuna that existed then regarding the protection of women from sexual harassment at the workplace. The three-judge bench laid down elaborate guidelines for the protection of women employees from sexual harassment. It's worthwhile to highlight some of the key observations made in the judgment. Very briefly, I have just noted them. The Supreme Court said that sexual harassment of a woman at workplace is violative of a host of fundamental rights. And this is how the development of jurisprudential growth started. First, the Supreme Court said it's violative of Article 14. You denying is a denial of equality to the woman when she is harassed like this. The second violation, it was held of Article 15, which prohibits any discrimination based upon caste, creed, religion, place of birth, or sex. And therefore, the Supreme Court said that such an action is definitely violative of Article 15 also. But the most significant part, which the Supreme Court said, that it was also violative of Article 21 of the Constitution. It amounts to denying a dignified, respectful life and liberty to the women section of the society. And therefore, having held that it was a composite violation of three fundamental rights guaranteed under the Constitution, the Supreme Court then proceeded to lay down the guidelines for safeguard. One of the quote, I will just say what the Supreme Court said, and I'm quoting, "The right to be protected from sexual harassment and sexual assault is therefore guaranteed by the Constitution and is one of the pillars on which the very construct of gender justice stands." Let's therefore bear in mind that gender equality does not stop at just providing opportunities to women. It also includes protecting them from sexual harassment and guaranteeing the right to work with dignity, which is universally accorded as a basic human right. The judgment also, besides, as I said, Article 14, 15, and 21, the judgment also took notice of Article 42 of the doctrine of principles of state policy, which makes and casts a duty on the state to secure justice and human conditions of work. But the fact is that at that point of time, there was no policy in wig. There was nothing enforceable or justiciable on the judicial platform, either by way of an executive form or a legislative form. What are the outcome of the case? The significance of this verdict was that it laid down a set of comprehensive guidelines in hopes of putting an end to the sexual harassment of women at workplace. While framing these mandatory guidelines, the Apex Court exhibited an extraordinary vision to rectify the legislative silence and filled up the vacuum with an effective use of the inputs from international instruments such as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination against Women, which were in consonance with our constitutional ethos. However, it is equally important to note that the court provided contextual clarity as to why it was exercising the power under Article 32 of the Constitution, that's a direct writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And why the Supreme Court exercised that jurisdiction? I quote, "The power of this court under Article 32 for enforcement of the fundamental rights and the executive power of the Union have to meet the challenge to protect the working women from sexual harassment and to make their fundamental rights meaningful. Governance of the society by the rule of law mandates this requirement as a logical concomitant of the constitutional scheme. The exercise performed by the court in this manner is with this common perception." The guidelines laid down by the Supreme Court made it imperative for the employees to ensure the prevention of sexual harassment of women on the workplace. On one hand, public sector bodies were to provide within their code of conduct appropriate penalties for prohibiting sexual harassment, and on the other hand, even the private employees, the private sectors, were directed to include prohibition in their standing orders under the Industrial Employment Standing Orders Act 1946. So both the aspects were taken care, the public sector as well as the private sector where large scale employment are there and the women folk is employed. Various mechanisms in the form of initiation of criminal proceedings, disciplinary proceedings, internal complaints committee, as the learned Vice Chancellor pointed out, and there is a committee like in the university, even in private sector you will find such committees. Various such directions were also issued by the Supreme Court. I must say, this verdict by the Supreme Court was indeed a proud moment for the whole nation as it traveled far beyond the borders, the Vishaka guidelines, inspired other South Asian countries such as Bangladesh and Pakistan to introduce similar reforms. For instance, the Supreme Court of Bangladesh, in one of the decisions that concerned violations against women in the workplace, relied upon Vishaka and provided guidelines to be implemented until the Bangladesh government took legislative or executive action to prohibit this kind of illegal actions. Let me also point out a caveat here. It's fact that Vishaka became the lifeline of working women. But there has been a section of the society, and in all respect, a part of the intellectual society, who have been criticizing the Supreme Court for delivering Vishaka judgment on the ground that it's a case of judicial activism and that the courts sometimes try to overreach the field which is substantially and factually occupied by other organs of the Constitution. I am not on the issue whether the criticism is right or wrong, but my concern is that if the other organs of the Constitution, namely the legislature or the political executive of the union or state, fail to address an issue, how can we left the public of this country, the common man of this country, the Indian society, in a vacuum, in a directionless manner, and suffering as a victim without any hope of any solution. And therefore, it becomes a bounden duty of the court to come forward and cater those needs of the society which have not been timely addressed. Therefore, in my considered view, Vishaka was neither a case of judicial activism nor of judicial overreach. It was a need of the hour, it was need of the society, and the Supreme Court befittingly provided a remedy to the nation, to the society, which was urgently needed at that point of time. And this is proof from efficacy of the government. The mandatory implementation of the guidelines which laid down in Vishaka have undoubtedly improved the work environment for women, making it more safe, humane, and healthy for them to work. These guidelines have also proved to have a huge deterrence effect on the potential harassers. Several enterprises have effectively established internal complaints committees and have even endeavored to follow the guidelines in letter and spirit. My dear friends, I do not stop with Vishaka only. It's my duty to apprise you that even post Vishaka also, the Supreme Court did not sit silent. In Apparel Export Promotion Council versus A.K. Chopra, that's a judgment of 99, as Dr. Pradeep and Professor Vice Chancellor Sahab pointed out, the 1997 judgment in Vishaka. But just after 2 years, in 99, in A.K. Chopra's case, the Supreme Court enlarged the definition of sexual harassment. And it's very important, please. This definition was enlarged by ruling that physical contact was not essential for it to amount to an act of sexual harassment. It was one of the plea raised by, of course, the element who indulged in, that unless there is a physical contact, there can't be a sexual harassment. Even that part Supreme Court ruled out, that it is not necessary that there should be a physical contact to commit this offense. That was in 99, just after 2 years of the Vishaka. Then came Medha Kotwal Lele's case. This was in 2013. One NGO wrote a letter to the Supreme Court complaining that despite your elaborative, very expensive guidelines laid down in Vishaka, the state governments, union territories, and there are many other organs who are not following those guidelines in true letter and spirit. That letter by the NGO was converted into a suo motu public interest litigation by the Supreme Court for the purpose of monitoring the implementation of Vishaka's case. And as I understand, in Medha Kotwal's case, Supreme Court issued notice to all the state governments, to the union, and to various public sector organizations and private entities, calling upon them to file affidavits that how and in what manner have you complied with the Vishaka guidelines. So it's not that a judgment is delivered and after that the Supreme Court sits silent. A follow-up action and vigorously commanding all the states has been subsequently taken. After 2013, Medha Kotwal case, just in 2020, then Supreme Court again expressed its viewpoint in Nisha Priya Bhatia's case. That is a very interesting case. I'm not repeating the facts, but I'm pointing out to you. That was a case where some disciplinary action were taken against a lady officer. She challenged that disciplinary action, alleging that I have not committed any XYZ misconduct. But the courts decided against her. And even Supreme Court, as far as her misconduct was concerned, Supreme Court said, yes, there is a dereliction of duty and whatever action has been taken by the authorities against her, that is justified because that's a part of disciplinary action taken as per the rules, as per the departmental rules. But what the Supreme Court said, that victim had exceedingly insensitive and undignified circumstances due to improper handling of her complaint. That was about her, the same. Her action against her is upheld. But the Supreme Court found that the victim had faced exceedingly insensitive and undignified circumstances due to improper handling of her complaint of sexual harassment. It was held that since fundamental rights of the victim had been clearly impinged, she was entitled to monetary compensation. So as far as this jurisprudential growth of protecting the women against any type of direct, indirect, remote, physical, sexual harassment is concerned, the Supreme Court is consistently determined to protect and follow up and to expand the principles founded upon by it in Vishaka's case. My friends, the most significant impact of Vishaka was that it laid down the foundation for the enactment of, as Dr. Pankaj pointed out, Dr. Pradeep also pointed out, the enactment of the Sexual Harassment of Women at Workplace Prevention, Prohibition and Redressal Act 2013. But for this judgment, probably the people of this country might have been denied a legislative protection for long years. Though the International Labour Organization has remarked that majority of the Indian companies are non-compliant to this act, the success of this act is that it has put in place a mechanism for curbing the instances of sexual harassment. The act contains broad categories of acts or behaviors which constitute sexual harassment. There is also a provision for mandating the formation of an internal complaints committee that is now formalized everywhere. And that committee requires members nominated by the employer, out of which at least half of them ought to be women. I think that's on pan-India basis. Now these directions and this coupled with this statutory mandate of 2013 Act are being religiously complied with by all the institutions. Why such instances take place? Why the courts will have to come forward and issue such guidelines? Why the other sections of the society do not need this kind of judicial or legislative mandate? These are also the questions which confront us. And in my analytical view, the socio-economic analysis of gender justice is very important. It is true that our constitution promises equal opportunities to all, but due to the structural and cultural design of our society, the ground reality is that the workplaces are still pervaded by an unsafe, hostile environment. Sexual harassment not only violates the sense of dignity of women, but also infringes upon their right to earn a living. It is also an impediment to the economic growth of the country. Only a safe and conducive work environment can enable a woman to work at her full potential. As the famous Chinese journalist Tian Wei rightly said, and I quote, he has said beautiful lines, any society that fails to harness the energy and creativity of its women is at a huge disadvantage in the modern world. And that is what precisely happens. Dr. Pradeep was very kind to refer to some of my judgments, including that Kirti's case, where the only issue was that where unfortunately the husband and wife both lost their lives in a motor accident case, the tribunal and the high courts took a view that the husband will be presumed that he was a able-bodied person and was working and earning. But as far as the deceased woman is concerned, she was a housewife only, homemaker, and therefore it can't be presumed that she had any source of income for which compensation should be awarded. Now, this absolutely discriminatory, uncalled for artificial discrimination between the two prompted us to say otherwise. And we highlighted what is the importance of housemaker and therefore how she contribute to the economy of the family, and therefore her loss can and definitely results into a huge financial loss to the family, which in terms of the compensatory principles deserve to be suitably awarded. And this is how we try to develop that concept. I must also remind you that the ground reality and practices of gender discrimination against women were a subject matter of debate even before the Constituent Assembly. Most of you might be knowing, in the Constituent Assembly, there were 15 women members. 15 women members. In one of my speech in Ranchi, I said these 15 women were the mothers of our constitution. There were a lot of discussion and deliberations about the malpractices of gender discrimination, and which were in terms of degree were at variance depending upon the religious concepts, urban and rural concepts, social and backward concepts, urban and rural differences. At various platforms, different degree of discriminations were being seen and were found to be in existence. It was in this background that two of the persons I would quote before you among the 15 women members, there was one Begum Azia Rasool. While speaking on the fundamental rights, what she said was, under the proposed constitution, it is necessary to ensure absolute protection of fundamental rights without any compromise. She advocated that there was a need to ensure that such rights were being followed in letter and spirit, and bring a society which does not discriminate on the ground of sex, known as gender discrimination. There was one other, a great intellectual, Professor Hansa Mehta. She was representing Bombay State at that time in the Constituent Assembly. A great visionary, I would say. What she said, and I'm quoting, "It will warm the heart of many a woman to know that free India will mean not only equality of status, but equality of opportunity. The average woman in this country has suffered now for centuries from inequalities heaped upon her by laws, customs, and practices of people who have fallen from the heights of that civilization of which we are all so proud." She further said, "There are thousands of women today who are denied ordinary human rights. They are put behind the parda, secluded within the four walls of their homes, unable to move freely. The Indian woman has been reduced to such a state of helplessness that she has become easy prey to those who wish to exploit the situation. In degrading women," please listen the last line, what she said. Very, very strong remarks. "In degrading women, man has degraded himself." In degrading women, man has degraded himself. This is what Professor Hansa Mehta spoke in the Constituent Assembly. I must say, these dynamic leaders, these visionaries, these crusaders against social evils, who contributed not only in Constituent Assembly, but subsequently on political and social platforms, must have persuaded the Supreme Court to envision the guidelines which eventually came through Vishaka, as we are discussing today. Therefore, as an optimistic person, I always feel that what has been achieved through Vishaka, the other ailing issues can also be equally hammered, and we can resolve those through the activism of all the organs, whether it is judiciary, whether it is legislature, or the executive. I feel that though the representation of women in public life has significantly improved, it is upon us to ensure that nothing comes in the way of our women from achieving excellence. This begins with effective major institutional changes from within our society. We have an over empowering constitutional obligation that requisite legislations are enacted timely and promptly. All that we require is efficacious implementation of the existing laws and to enact the future laws as and when the problems are foreseen. The promised rights, opportunities, and safe spaces must transcend into reality for our women. We would like to see that in the coming Union Public Service examinations show many more girls achieving great heights as you have seen a few days back. But my dear friends, we must also keep in mind that courts have their own judicial limitations. The courts do not have a magic wand to solve every puzzle. The other stakeholders, civil society, legislature, executive, academia, young students, everyone has to come forward and take Vishaka or its follow-up actions to a greater height and to a new pedestal. The Supreme Court verdict in Vishaka is truly an apt paradigm for our nation, which opened up the discussion on the condition of our working women. I wish to remind ourselves a quote by one of the greatest scholars of our nation, Swami Vivekananda, and I quote, "All nations have attained greatness by paying proper respect to women. That country and that nation which does not respect women have never become great, nor will ever be in future." That's what Swami Vivekananda said. If we aspire to be a superpower in this century, we must abide by the thumb rule of progress given very aptly by Dr. Ambedkar, and his one-line statement I like and I really wish to quote is, he said, "I measure the progress of a community by the degree of progress which women has achieved." This is my personal belief that institutional platforms like the Central University of Haryana or other educational institutes can play a very active, dynamic role in sensitizing every section of the society. It's not that only the women need to be made aware of their rights or how to prevent the violation of their rights. It is equally important that an integral part of the society, namely the male, too also need to be sensitized about their duties and responsibilities. I'm very sanguine that the departments of the university, like its ICC committee, will continue to make endeavor and will leave no stone unturned in ensuring that not only the thousands of students of 33 departments of this university, but even outsiders are made part of a public movement which ensure full respect and dignity to our mothers, our daughters, our sisters, our wives, and one and all in the society. I am thankful to Professor Tankeshwar, the learned Vice Chancellor, and his team of academia, and especially my dear students, to give me this time so patiently hearing me and of course, having this interactive session with all of you. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much, sir. So we heard about you, we read a lot about you, but today your spellbound lecture compel us to deconstruct our understanding of Vishaka case. So thank you so much for these deliberations. Now I would like to request our Honorable Vice Chancellor to felicitate our Lordship. There was a survey based upon these women's safety in university and on the basis of Saksham guideline, and our women's cell has conducted that survey and we found that 100% girls in university feel safe in the campus. So much, sir. So much, sir. It's a great honor to felicitate you. Now I would like to request Dr. Pankaj to please come on the stage. I want to request the Registrar of the University, Professor Sunil Kumar, to felicitate Dr. Pankaj. Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to request Professor Kalpana Chauhan, Chairperson of ICC, for the formal vote of thanks.
Yeah, am I audible? A very good afternoon to you, Honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant, Judge Supreme Court of India, respected Professor Tankeshwar Kumar, VC, Central University Haryana, Mahendergarh, respected Professor Pankaj, ADJ Faridabad, Professor Sunil Kumar, Registrar, Central University, Haryana, Mahendergarh, Professor Sunita Srivastava, all deans, HODs, TICs, my colleagues, and dear students. Thank you very much for being present at this wonderful occasion. And first of all, I would like to say a thank you to the organizing committee that I have been given the opportunity to extend vote of thanks to this wonderful event where we have we have the guest professor we have the guest honorable Mr. Justice Suryakant ji. On behalf of university and myself, I extend our sincere gratitude to our esteemed speaker, the Lordship, for such an enlightening lecture on Vishaka at 25, Walk the Talk. The key points of the talk that I noted down, that he talked minutely about the Vishaka at 25, where we will be able to understand new precise knowledge about the Vishaka at 25. And moreover, Sir talked about that when we talk about progressive India, the something which is very important is your equality and equity. The participation of the women is important for inclusive growth. That is something we need to achieve success at the global scale. That the in my conclusion, that is the key point of the Sir's talk. And when we talk about, for example, other speakers, they also talked about in detail about the knowledge of law, which is, I think, new to we audience, because we are not from the field of law. I'm myself from chemistry field. That's why I'm saying this sentence, because I understood many of the minutes which might not be, I'm clear earlier with this particular perspective, I would say. We also extend our appreciation to Dr. Pankaj, who talked about the gender justice and the knowledge of law. And other than that, we also, for example, I'm sorry, I would like to extend one more thing, that whatsoever is being shared in terms of law of knowledge, that is something being providing we the base. There we will be able to extend our horizon to work safely within our workplace and go in a progressive way. Now, we also wish to express our sincere thanks to Honorable Vice Chancellor, sir, for his constant encouragement and guidance in the execution of this event to such a great success. I would like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the sincere efforts and extend a big thanks to all who contributed effortlessly, continuously, without any, I would say, feeling laborious in this event, especially the infra staff for their logistic support, the executive engineers, DSW office bearers, warden office bearers, proctor, student volunteers, Women Empowerment Cell, and ICC members also. Finally, uh, the wonderful talks that we heard, we will be able to conclude out that ultimately we are taking some lesson that we need a equal opportunity to every single body within the working place to get higher and higher in our respective fields. That is something we need to take into consideration. And with these words, finally, I would like to say that I am also grateful to every single body. If I forgot somebody to acknowledge, kindly forgive me for that particular mistake. And last, not the least, all my dear audience, dear students, thank you very much for being with us through this time to make this event a success. Thank you very much. Over to you, madam.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for expressing gratitude to everyone. Now I would like to request the members of the ICC and the members of the Women Empowerment Cell to please come on the stage for a group photograph. Members of Women Empowerment Cell and members of the Internal Complaint Committee, please come on the dais. Thank you so much, everyone. Now I will request everyone to please rise for the national anthem. Night,